Hey everyone, I'm Todd Wayne along with Ronnie Healy. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranomaly Podcast. You know, this is a very sad day today. We have a feral kitty outside. Her name was Xena, and she died sometime after dinner last night. She was hit by a car. We found her in the road early this morning and immediately got her and buried her so that no one would have to see that awful sight. But here's the good side of this. She had kittens a few months back, and Ronnie was lucky enough to capture one, a little fluff ball, black and white and very fluffy. And she named it Bandit. So, you know, there's one more kitten out there, and she's going to try to catch it and rehome it. So that'll be a really good thing. But last night, we were watching movies, and it was probably, 10 to 11 o'clock last night. We have a bigger cat. Her name's Princess. She was looking towards the hallway, and she did something that I've never seen her do, and that she arched her back, and the hairs on her back stood up, and it was like she was seeing another cat, one that she's never seen before. You know how they kind of get like that defensive, and it only happened for a quick minute, but I'm going to tell you something. I truly believe that this was Xena coming to say goodbye to her little bandit. I don't know. Just have to think about it. Anyway, on this episode, we have Susan Hill. Now, Susan's a direct messenger, and she's an open channel to intelligent life found throughout our solar system and beyond. Susan is in contact with neighboring civilizations found interdimensionally as well as extra-dimensional, both physical and non-physical beings. She found herself able to contact and connect to them in a fluid way and considers herself a conscious channel. She is passionate about connecting others with their own ability to heal themselves and bridging them with their personal cosmic connections. It's going to be a good episode, folks. So grab yourself a drink and a snack, turn the lights off on the way back, find yourself a nice comfy spot, and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks.
We're good. Yep.
I hope so.
Yeah.
All right. So, Susan, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Susan Hill, and I am where do I start? Let's see. I am a conscious channel and a medium. I'm also a Reiki master. I do energy healing with Amadeus as well, sound healing, and I just finished my class for shamanic sound healing, like a shaman.
Yes.
So I do a lot of healing, energy healing with people and sound healing, but I do readings while I'm in that session with them. Or I can do one or the other or all, they can pick and choose. But I found myself in this world, I was gifted as a kid, actually, like many of us, we were found, my dog is barking.
That's
sorry.
Okay.
Hush. So sorry.
Is it a boy or a girl?
It's a girl. Yeah, she's a big 100-pound girl.
Well, she wants to be heard too.
I know she does. She does. She's waiting on her daddy to get home. But yeah, I found myself in this world from childhood, actually. Like I'm sure many of us have, and I was really gifted as a child. And then, of course, it got conditioned out with society and family and school and all these things. You get busy with other things and you're not as connected. But it never really goes away. So, but I was super gifted as a kid, and it came back with a vengeance about 6 years ago. Just all of a sudden, I was always really, interested in like paranormal and all of that, especially the communication part. However, I could find myself communicating or with Ouija boards and all the spooky stuff, like we all do.
Yes.
And then about 6 years ago, I had an experience. I was at home. My husband was out of town, And I was very anxious for some reason. I didn't know why, because I'm not an anxious person. But I was very anxious for some reason. And I was in the bed, had my dogs there, And so I'm watching TV and cut the TV off and was trying to go to sleep and still felt all this anxiety, to the point that I got up and turned my desk light on. And I'm a grown woman at this point, turn my desk light on in the room so that I, would feel a little bit more comfortable. And I've never done that before as an adult. Now, as a kid, I did. But so I started, was laying there, I was wide awake, and I felt the anxiety got worse and worse, got stronger, like I wanted to jump out of my skin. And then there was 3 beings right in front of me. I could not see them, but I felt them. And I felt them as they got closer to me. And then they were right in my face. And each being said a sequence of numbers. There's 3 different sequences of numbers. And ever since that day, and this has been 6 or 7 years ago, ever since that day, I see those numbers every single day, like multiple times a day. And I know I have a little bit understanding of who and what they were now. I didn't know at the time, but it's funny. Right when they got right in my face, I was not anxious at all. Once they got right there, I was not anxious at all. And I felt comfortable with them, but it was just the initial, I guess, coming together or something. I don't know.
So explain to us, what kind of beings were these? Were these like, could they have been alien beings, or could they have been?
I think so. Yeah. I didn't know at the time, but I think that now, I do believe that now. Yes. And it was 3 male voices that said these numbers. And so that's what at this point now in my journey, in my, path, that's what I feel like they are, or they were.
So let me recap this just a minute. So when you was a young child growing up, and as you said, we kind of all have these special gifts. We all do.
Right.
And it's, of course, it's brought out more from children because they're not as conditioned. I believe that a lot of people with mental disabilities really shine with these gifts as well.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yes, because they're not conditioned. So you had these gifts. Now, as a child, you didn't really tap into that much, did you? You didn't really think. I mean, I'm sure you knew something was different.
Oh, yeah, I knew that there was something happening, and I would tell my family, and they would kind of ignore it, because I was telling them about, for example, family members that have long gone before I was ever thought of, with names and descriptions and what we talked about and this and that. And I think they just thought I had a wild imagination, and maybe they heard, I overheard some conversation about this person and my family.
Yes.
So it was like, they just kind of brushed it off. They didn't really kind of go there. And I don't know if you noticed, but I live in the South. Yes. So I was a 70s kid. I'm in Georgia, and so my family is very traditional and very, went to church every Sunday and all that. So they didn't really know what to do with that. They weren't there. So that's kind of, how that all went on till I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Now, as you got older, did you continue with your gifts, or did you kind of put it on hold? Because sometimes being that young, you get lost in other things, you're trying to be a kid,
Yeah. I did. I did, play sports. I rode horses. I showed horses all growing up. Had school activities, all the normal kid stuff, but there was always that. There was something always there. And even through a teenager, I could feel it, but I would just ignore it, I never had it. Yeah.
Yeah. Until finally, yes. It just is like, it's too much then. Then it's like, wow, I can't ignore this any longer.
Right.
So that all come about that was past your teenage years. About when was that again?
This was about 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
Is when I had that experience with those three beings that I could not see, but I definitely felt and heard them. I heard them audibly. Like they're right in my face,
Do you think that they could have been contacting you previously?
Probably.
Trying to, get your attention?
I would say so, probably. Because I felt like they knew who I was. I didn't know who they were, at the time. I'm still not certain,
Right.
But I do feel like it was not something that you would think your normal paranormal haunting thing. This was not that. It didn't feel like that.
Right.
It did not feel human. And I didn't, at the time I was not that person. I was not into the cosmic end of it. Nowhere close, and I grew up when Star Wars, I was a little kid, or I don't know how old it was, but I was a little kid, when Star Wars came out, and my brother took me to watch it, and I fell asleep, and I was not a science fiction child. I did not do anything like that. That was not me at all. So I was not there at all, when this happened. But now looking back, I definitely think it was something extra dimensional,
Yes.
Yeah. So but at the time I did feel it was not human consciousness or like a ghost, that kind of thing.
Yes.
It wasn't that feeling.
So now, okay, so I'm going to back up just a little bit, not much.
Yeah.
When did you start getting into the paranormal?
I was always interested in it. But like I said, I kind of ignored it too, but I would say probably I was always aware of something. This is no joke. I did not sleep a full night in my bed by myself until I was probably 18 or 19 years old. I slept with my sister. I slept with somebody else, in the family or whatever in the room. I would not sleep in the room by myself because I could feel all of that energy and I could feel something around me, and I didn't understand it. It was my lack of understanding that scared me. And so when I was in college, I was really into a lot of seances and the Ouija board thing, and all of that kind of stuff going on. Now there weren't any of the shows that we have today, like the ghost hunters or anything like that. We didn't have any of that on TV. So we were just kind of using what we had to work with, and so I was really interested in that. And then after I had this experience several years ago, I really jumped into ITC research, and I was real heavy into that for about a year and a half. And then it kind of shifted over into another part of paranormal being, the more cosmic side of things, the deeper, more out there, beyond our human consciousness type experiences. And it just woke up one day, and I'll never forget this. I used to get up really early in the morning and walk for about 45 minutes before I went to work, and it was still dark out. So I'd walk into my driveway. We had a fenced-in yard, and so I'd walk in the driveway, and it was a long driveway. And I remember walking out on my porch one morning to go walk, and it wasn't long after that experience with the three beings. And I looked up and I saw Orion right above my house. And I was like, whoa, I have never noticed that before. And so then I started noticing things. I started noticing and I saw the Sirius star system, Orion. I'll never forget that morning when I looked up and he was just there, just boom, right in my face. And I know he'd probably been there and I'd never seen him. So, but I started becoming more aware of things. And so it just kind of progressed from there. And now I'm in more of, like I said, like the cosmic end of stuff. As far as the paranormal, if you want to call it that, end of the paranormal world.
Yeah, and it's that makes sense. There's you talked about ITC work, and so you're branching. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
let's
Absolutely.
let's see what this is, and keep going from there. And that there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And
You
I
being
still kind of explore with ITC sometimes. It's fascinating. I just still find it very fascinating.
right. It being a medium,
Yeah.
doing what you
Right.
do. These things are, you will connect with this, and you'll be like, oh, okay, I can
Yeah.
see. Yeah. So that's interesting. I love that how you kind of come out of your shell later in life, but you come out of your shell.
Mm-hmm.
You started to see that there's more out there than what we perceive.
Oh gosh, definitely. There's a lot more out there, and a lot that and I'm still learning. I think we all keep learning, throughout our life, and so I'm still discovering things, still learning things, still having experiences, um, and I guess later, a few years ago, probably about 3 years ago or so, I started having like very lucid experiences in different places. I'd find myself in a different place in a very lucid dream, for example, but it was very, very real. And, and then it just kept progressing from there. And then all of a sudden I could hear them, didn't know what that was to begin with. I mean, I did the whole thing of going to the doctors. I thought there was something wrong with me, and they couldn't find a thing in the world wrong with me. So, but I think I went to 2 doctors, and I've heard people do this. They'll think something's wrong with them. They'll go try to have it checked out, and they can't find anything. That's pointing a finger is just something wrong at all. So I want people to know that. So don't think you're crazy, because you're probably not. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and the times have changed an awful lot. We know this because, back in the day, if you said that you was talking to some dead person, they were like, okay, we need to call a psychiatrist.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that was the first thing they thought of. They thought, okay, well, there's something wrong. And now it's more of a... well, not everybody, but a lot will embrace that more with their children. If a child says that they're talking to an imaginary friend, and you're like, oh, okay, so tell me about this imaginary friend.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Now that we're not as quick to throw someone in an asylum, and
that's right. Yep, so. That's very true. I mean, that's very true. And I think back when I was a kid, I was very innocent. I mean, and my parents knew that there wasn't. I was describing like my great great grandmother, that my mom knew briefly in her life, but I did not know. So they knew there was something there. I never had imaginary friends. I always had somebody I knew, or I thought I knew, or I wasn't really supposed to know in this physical life, but they were very real. So, and I also had experiences as a kid with angelics. And, they were just they were like light beings, but I just thought that was normal. And I think most kids do, they think it is. And it is, I think it is very normal. But, as adults, we have to kind of get through all that conditioning that we went through, in our early adulthood to wherever we are in life. And kind of get past all of that and realize that, hey, something really real is happening here. And I'm glad. I'm like you. I'm glad that people are embracing it more today. Yep.
And it's not an easy thing because of TV and movies. It's almost like it's now an everyday occurrence, but it's really not. And I always say an experience is your personal proof, if you want to say it. But
right.
But there's a real proof that you need to be able to prove to people, especially in the paranormal. Not so much in mediumship, which of course you'll know by the correct answers that you receive. But the paranormal is the same way. It's there's a lot of not so truthful things in the paranormal.
Oh yeah, there can be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But if you take it, if you can, I want to say decompress yourself from everything that you've learned, like you was just saying, you will see things a
Right.
lot more clearer.
Right.
Now, how did your religious beliefs come into this?
Well, a lot of it was fear, because you're not supposed to be able to do that, or especially when I was younger. Not so much when I got into like mid-20s or so. I kind of moved away a little bit from that. But a lot of it for me personally was fear, or I thought I was doing something wrong, or this isn't, or it was supposed to be scary, or something bad or evil. And that's not, in my, thinking back, that is not the way that I experienced it. And I think a lot of people that do get scared have a lack of understand. They just don't understand what it is. And that was true for me, at first. And, especially the experiences I would have as an adult. And the one that I had, that propelled my journey, with the three beings that came right in my face. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget those voices. And, but I had this calming feeling when once they got obviously across the room. Like I said, I could not see them. I could feel them. And I felt like I was going to jump out of my skin. But once they got to me, I did that. The whole fear went away. Everything just kind of went away, and I was completely calm. But I've learned to understand. I've grown to know that the reason that you feel that a lot of time is because their frequency is a lot higher than yours. So your physical body cannot handle that higher frequency. You can definitely feel that, and it gives you like an anxiety feeling. Um, so I've learned that part, and I've had more experiences like that, but I have an understanding of it now. So I don't have the fear. It's uncomfortable, but I don't have the fear of it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Now, let me ask this question, because mediums and psychics and clairvoyancy, all these things, and I'm not saying anything about you using archangels and things like that. I'm going by, how does your beliefs coincide with alien beings? Because in the Bible it references that there is only one God and there's only one earth, and so I'm just kind of curious on how that fits in.
How it fits now. Well, for me personally, it's expanded. My belief is still there, but it's just gotten bigger. There's more included in all of that. For example, our cosmic neighbors are a part of that whole. They were created by a creator. You know what I mean? Now, my personal language has changed. I don't use the word God because a lot of people don't like that word, and so I use the word creator or source. And I personally believe that there is a source for all of this. If that makes sense. So it's just gotten bigger than just us here on planet Earth. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You've expanded your mind to believe
I've expanded it. Yes.
Because again, we are conditioned to believe certain things. And as soon as we step out of that and we start to say, oh my God, there's way more than this than what I was taught. So, and that's why I was curious on how that worked with what you do.
Yeah. I'll just add this too. Probably the last 2.5 years, especially, I have taken a deep dive into the lost teachings of Christ. Those are the teachings that they don't show us or tell us about in church. So they were, all about the Gnostics and the Essenes, and like if you want to, like Jesus, for that's me. That's where I come from. He had all these teachings that we weren't taught. So I've taken a deep dive into the Christ teaching. So I do, try to follow that, and And I think that's kind of, personally, I feel like that is kind of the goal. He was here as well as others. He wasn't the only one, because you have the Buddhist and you have, the Hindu. And I think that those were all a version of Christ. And that's my personal belief. So, in what I've researched and learned over the last few years, speaking of church, so yeah.
And you're absolutely right. And if you think back way before us, there was the Egyptians. Mm-hmm. Now, the Egyptians, they were astrological people.
They were.
We not so much, but them, they were.
Yes, they were very, very much.
Very
much. They were very in tune with that.
And it goes farther back than that. But I definitely can remember things in the Bible, such as Ezekiel's wheel.
Yes.
Where they're talking about, alien beings.
They are. Or when Moses climbed Mount Sinai, for example, and disappeared in a thundering cloud.
Yes.
Hello. Why didn't we ever put the two together when we were sitting in Sunday school? I mean, so we just, well, for me, I wasn't that person, like I said earlier, but that to me screams, ship or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, even that, and if you look at stars they're spot on. I mean, the Egyptians used the stars for pyramid building. So
they did.
It's very interesting on, like, if you can't really, to me anyway, you couldn't really take one religion and try to absorb everything into it. You would have to be bigger than that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And like I said, I live in the South, and so not as much as I used to be, but I have gotten pretty beat up by Christians. They're very defensive over there, and I grew up Christian, so I understand that.
But isn't it is though? It's the Bible is all about love thy neighbor. Don't be mean to people. So if that's the case, why are people so mean to other people? I don't get it. It says,
I don't know.
One of the key things in the Bible is thou shalt not kill.
Right.
But this happens all the time.
It does. It does. And I think that we're here. This is something else that, I've learned over the years is that, especially on this journey, the latter end of this journey being the more expanded version, we are here in this polarized space for a reason, to learn what that is and to be able to bring forth the light, more so to kind of drown the other part out. And hopefully those people will learn one day. They're just not where we are. And so you kind of have to look at it in a sense of neutrality, I guess.
And that's hard to do sometimes.
It is. It's very hard. It is very hard.
Because it's like you just want to grab people and like, what are you doing?
I know. Yeah, I know. Exactly.
But we're all on our own journey. So,
yes.
I have to step back and I have to remember that.
Yeah.
We're all going through our own journey and doing our own thing. Well, free will of man. That's
right. Right. And I also learned, speaking of the Egyptians, I've learned that in some of their teachings and some of the other lost teachings that we chose to experience this polarity, going all the way back to, if you want to call it, the Garden of Eden. We chose to experience that. And that's kind of the camp that I'm in. I understand that and I resonate with that. So that's where I kind of go with that. That's my personal belief. Some people aren't there. There's other beliefs in all of why we're in this world that we are, that's so polarized. But that's kind of where I feel comfortable,
Yes.
that we had a part in choosing, to be here for the experience of what Earth is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, someplace, I can't remember where I seen it. It said that you hear directly from spirit through melodic frequencies.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so explain the melodic frequencies.
Well, I'll explain it by telling you first my very first experience with this, and this was about 3 years ago. That's when I started to hear clairaudiently. You know, I probably always had to some degree, but I didn't understand it. You know, but I was actually sitting one morning with my coffee before work. My dog was on the couch with me. I had the TV on. I was looking at Facebook, I'm sure, And so I heard this high pitched frequency, this high pitched noise, and it was it was piercing. It really kind of hurt my ears. And so I thought it was coming from the television. And so I cut the TV off and it was still there. And I was like, what? I was thinking to myself, what is that noise? And it was so ear piercing. I remember as I was taking a sip of coffee, okay, let me just add that. I was taking a sip of coffee and I was putting my other hand up to my ear because it was really, kind of very uncomfortable. And that at that moment, I heard words within those frequencies. I could translate it into words. I could hear the words coming through these frequencies. And I spit my coffee all over the floor in front of me. And I just sat there for a minute. I was like, what the hell? I had to process it for a second. And I kept hearing, this message. And it was this Syrian council that was coming through. They told me who they were. And I was like, oh God,
Okay, so, who was it?
The Syrian council.
Okay, so who is the Syrian council?
Well, there's probably several, so I'm not really sure which one maybe it was, or if it probably a council or a collective of beings would be several beings from a certain place, like the Palladian Collective, or in this case, the Syrian Council. So it's a group of beings from Sirius, that were coming through. And what they said to me was, good morning, Susan. This is the Syrian Council. We're transmitting from Sirius B. And I didn't even know there was a Sirius B at the time. I didn't know what that was. And so it was very clear, but it was still in that frequency sound, kind of like you can hear, like when somebody plays a guitar and they can make it talk, like with a different sounds with an electric guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that.
Would it be like the vibration of the string? Like if you pluck the string, it gives it makes like a vibration, and each of those vibrations are
vibration. But it sounded more like a singing bowl. If you
okay,
yeah. So that's kind of what it sounded like, and it was continual, but I could hear the words coming through. But it wasn't like me and you talking. It was more like a singing bowl would sound, saying words, kind of like the electric guitar.
So kind of like they were notes, like a musical note. Each note represented a different word, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Very interesting.
So for whatever reason, I could understand it clearly. And like I said, I sat there for a minute, and that's when I started journaling. I went and grabbed a piece of paper because that's all I could get at the time, and wrote down their message. And I have now stacks and stacks of journals.
Now, are these? I didn't mean to cut you off. Are these messages specific, or are they just like random kind of chats?
Well, most of them came through with very specific messages, and I knew that I was meant to share. And I'm sure you've seen on my Facebook page, I'll share different ones. That I've gotten. And those are the messages I've also put in the journals that I'm publishing now. And another reason why I'm so passionate about journaling, because that's when I started journaling these messages. And so then I found myself during meditation, I could hear, the messages coming through. And I would be in about like a semi-trance state, and I was able to write, what they were saying, kind of like automatic writing almost.
Yes.
But now I'd go back and read it, and I wouldn't remember writing some of it, and I'd have to really look at my handwriting because some of it was like, really messy. from being not completely conscious, but beautiful, beautiful, loving messages from all over the cosmos. And that journal that I have out now that was just published in September is messages from the Pleiadians. So,
okay, before we get into that, you had mentioned about channel B, I think, and you said you didn't know what that was then.
Yeah, Sirius B. They said that they were transmitting, and that's the word they use. That's not how I talk, but that's the word they said. They said this is the Sirian Council. We're transmitting from Sirius B.
Okay, so what is Sirius B?
So in the Sirius star system, you have Sirius A and Sirius B, and I believe there's other little, stars within that. But the two main ones is Sirius A and Sirius B.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and so that's where they were transmitting from.
Interesting.
And, yeah, it is interesting. Yes, I still think about that sometimes. I'm like, God, that's just. I don't even know what to say about that.
And this kind of stuff really fascinates me because, there is definitely more than we know out there. And that's why I get excited, because I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is very interesting. And, I think it's good. Now, did any of these beings mention anything bad? Like, do they tell you anything of the future?
No, not specifically. No.
Or past?
It's all of the more now moments.
Oh, now. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Of the now moments. Some from the past, but the ones that came in that were what we would consider the past, because, time is not linear, really, which is another thing that I learned. But, yeah. So, some of the things that we would consider the past were more specific to me, like lifetimes that I experienced. And I'll just go back and tell you, when I was younger, I came in with full memories of 2 lifetimes. But there again, my parents just thought I was, had a big imagination.
Sure.
And since then, I've come in touch with other ones, maybe 3 or 4 other ones. And that was the ones they shared with me. And I really resonated with that, with what they were sharing with me. And I had like vague memories or a little flash of a memory or something. And so very interesting. Yes. So the ones that they would talk about in the past were more specific to me personally. They were just kind of getting me up to speed of who I was and what I did and why I'm here and all of that. But the other messages were more of the now moment for the, for all of us to know.
Okay. So then you decided you would take these messages and write them down.
Mm-hmm.
And now what was you trying to attempt with this? Was this just things you just want people to understand, hey, this is what I'm hearing? Because would I be able to take something in your book and make sense of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. They're very loving messages of how, how much we are very much loved and how much we are supported and really more to recognize our own power, our own, importance, because a lot of people don't know that. I mean, most of us don't. And to know that we are beautiful beings of light and we're capable of this, and this, and, but they don't ever tell you, or they never tell me anything negative or what to do, or this is what's going to happen. None of them ever shared any of that kind of stuff with me.
Okay, now what's the name of your book?
The journal that's out now is on Amazon, and it's called My Journey.
Okay.
A journal for your ascension path, and then I have on there messages from the 9th Dimensional Pleiadian Collective.
Okay, so what is the 9th Dimensional Pleiadian Collective?
Well, it's beings from Pleiades, okay, the Pleiades star system, and they are in the ninth dimension. They're ninth dimensional, so they're not physical.
Okay.
Yeah, they're non-physical beings, and they say a collective because it's different, I think, consciousness or personalities, you would say, but it's just one. There might be a spokesperson, you know.
Sure.
You know, but they can either be one or separate. Like I said, they're non-physical. They can come into physicality if they want to, or quasi-physical, but in the ninth dimension, it's non-physical. But they're from Pleiades, the Pleiades star system.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So with this in mind, now these messages that come through, I asked you before if they were random or if they, what they're telling you about us. Is that correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
So not just about you, they're saying about
all of us,
people in general.
Mm-hmm.
And
the collective of humans,
Do they talk about our planet?
They do talk about the planet. They're very concerned about the planet. Now, they never said that they're very concerned, but they would give like suggestions or reminders, let me say that, of how beautiful and loving our planet is, and that we have everything we need here on the planet. And so they love the earth itself. They also love us. And so it's very loving messages. But they were messages for, I would say, the human collective. And so that's why I wanted to share them. And that didn't come till later. I was just writing them down in the beginning for myself, to read and be amazed by. I didn't even know how to take that at first, but I just knew I needed to write them down. Like I said, that first experience I had, I went and grabbed a sheet of paper because I didn't have a journal. So, and now I have stacks of journals, full of these beautiful messages from these loving beings.
Now, how often do they give you these messages?
Well, it's really it can be random. It can be random. I remember having, especially in the beginning, I would have experience while I was folding laundry. I wasn't even thinking about, connecting in or anything. But mostly when I was in meditation, and that's when I started meditating, and really trying to connect with these beings. And so really it's kind of up to me at this point. I've heard this from other people. I know the last year or so has been a little bit of an adjustment or a shift or challenging for folks. And I was one of those, we moved, there was job changes, there was things going on in our physical world, with us as a whole, and then also, in our personal lives. So I was busy with that. So I wasn't getting as many, but if I sit down and try, I can connect in. So it's really kind of, if I dial in to them, I don't get as many random ones anymore. Or I haven't the last, I would say about 6 months, because I've had a lot going on in my life. And I'm sure you find that too, in the paranormal world also. You don't seem as connected or dialed in if there's a lot going on in your life. So yeah, but I mean, I can kind of connect in if I meditate like I should, which is, I try to do every day.
Well, yeah, and it's, that makes sense, because if you're overloaded in life with things that's going on, your stresses, depressions, things like that, you're actually more vulnerable.
Right.
So you're more open.
Mm-hmm.
So these things, even though you're thinking of other things that's happening in life, you're focused so much on the life events that these other things now are starting to penetrate. Right.
So, yeah.
Now tell us about because you do Divine Intuitive,
mm-hmm.
Conscious Channel, and was there something else, or was it just those two?
it was a conscious. I consider myself a conscious channel, and a direct connection to, like I said, I say divine, but that's really kind of encompasses all of that out there. Um, and like I said before, I was really in tune with the angelics, and that's who I started with, other than the Syrians.
Okay, so
there were angelics coming.
So you deal with. I just found it here. You deal with directly with Jesus and 5 of the archangels.
Yes,
and that you get that. That's for healing and growth from within. Correct?
Yes. So, and again, for me, for Christ would be Jesus, but for someone else, it might be another Christ being,
sure,
like Buddha. But for me personally, it's Jesus. So, so I am very close to him and 5 of the angels. So that would be Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Ariel, and Metatron. And I didn't even know who Metatron was. I'd never heard of him. I've heard of Gabriel because of, the Christmas story. So I heard of him, but I didn't really know any of these other ones. I grew up Methodist, so we don't talk about those things.
So who is it?
Is it Metatron?
Yes.
We consider him an archangel, but he's actually, and I personally believe Michael and Gabriel, or who we know as Michael or Gabriel or Raphael, are seraphim. They are angelics, and you'll find them in the book of, I think it's Isaiah. They mention the seraphim one time in the Bible, and they're 6-winged beings. They have 6 wings. But Metatron is, I want to say, I don't really know what he is. We consider him an archangel because he's in that group, but he's more of I don't even know what words to use for him. He does the sacred geometry, and he is, Metatron's cube. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay.
You'll have to fill me in on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he kind of is the angel that's over. He is the highest. The only thing that you can find from him, he is the highest ranked angel next to what we consider God. Okay. And then there's the Michaels and the Gabriels and, Ariel and Raphael and all those. But Metatron sits right next to him. In the hierarchy, if you want to call it that. And he kind of had, I guess he maybe built this world, what we know as our earth and our reality. And there's not a whole lot of information on him as far as what or who he is. But that's what we consider him as an archangel. But yeah, he's even higher. I mean, if you want to use a hierarchy, he's even higher than that. If you dig deeper into some of the ancient texts, you'll find that there. And it's pretty interesting, actually. And what I have found is I don't really I go by what I resonate with and what feels right to me personally. And so what you may find in a book or something, or in the history books or something like that, or the Bible or a religious text, it's up to you whether you want to align with that or not. For me personally, he is the angel that the prophet Enoch, they said, that he ascended as this angel from earth. And Enoch was Noah's great grandfather. Okay. And I had to figure that out too. So I had to dig into all of that. I didn't know who he was either.
And that's okay, because I'm kind of searching right now, and it's definitely an archangel of significant power. One thing here says Metatron is one of the most powerful archangels, acting as a celestial scribe to the Book of Life. So that's interesting. One says it identifies him as an angel that led the people of Israel through the wilderness after the
Oh, yeah,
Exodus.
I know that one. That one's yeah. I didn't know that.
After the Exodus of Egypt, again
Yeah.
referring to Exodus 23:21,
Wow. Okay.
describes him as a heavenly priest.
Yeah.
In the latter, let's see here. It says that Metatron is not a figure of the Hebrew Bible, but as the name appears briefly in several passages of the Talmud. I think that's how you pronounce it. So yes, very interesting. That you have one that is of a different, because it's not really a Hebrew.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I had never heard of Metatron. It sounds like a Power Ranger or something, or like a one of those. I mean, it doesn't sound like it would be an angel, but he's also. But you'll probably find if you're looking there that Enoch was the one that the prophet that ascended and became this powerful angel, and the only other angel, and I didn't know him either, that was a man within our religious text was Elijah. Elijah became the angel Sandalphon. So those two are pretty powerful, but they were here as some of our our biblical figures. so
yeah. What do you do to contact these archangels? I mean, if you're working with a client, for example, what would you do to help someone using the archangels?
Well, I'll tell you how I experience that is I will ask for not a specific one, but someone to come in, for this client. And each of them to me has a different feeling, and I know who they are that come through. They all have male voices, but they all have a different feel. So the feeling I get from them, I guess their frequency, their feeling is different for each one. It's very, very, it's pretty powerful. I mean, it's a powerful significance, between all of them. Even with the other cosmic beings, I can tell by how it feels, when it comes through.
Sure. So each one has their own frequency, their own vibration.
Yep. Yes, exactly. And that's for me, that's how I, resonate with them. And for someone else, it might be something different, but that's how I can tell them apart, of who is who by how they feel. And they'll have, and pretty much if you look at what we kind of classify them as of what they do, like their resume, what this angel does and what this angel does, so they'll come through with those with that kind of guidance, that specific guidance for whatever that person needs, So Michael may come through with, say, protection, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when people contact you, what is like the most frequent reason?
A lot of people contact me they want contact with a family member.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which I can get messages from their family that is specific or important for them at the time. I may not get a lot of detail. I will get 1, 2, or 3 things that come through that's very that person would only know. Like for example, I might see like a antique hair barrette or something that their grandmother wore, or a bracelet that was handed down, or something like that. That's very specific. So they'll know that this is a real deal. This is what's coming through, this message from them. And they will do that. They know that I kind of want them to do that for that person. So they'll know that, yes, that is my grandmother, or yes, that is my mom or my father or whatever. you know.
Yes.
Something very specific for that person. And then they'll come through with some guidance or some love or whatever of what that person needs at that moment, you know.
So now how do I want to put this? I don't even know. I got lost. I got sidetracked.
Oh, it's okay. I do that a lot. It's okay.
Anyway, you have a website and it's called The Angel Bridge, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, when people go to that, they can learn just about everything about you, correct?
Yes. And like I said before, I need to update a little bit. I haven't done that yet, so I'm in the process of doing that. So there'll be more information on there in the next couple of weeks. But yes, they can find out about me, about who I am, a little bit about my background, and kind of what I specialize in, and then contact me through that too. My email address is on there. I think my phone number is actually there. Yeah.
What is it that you specialize in?
Well, just for the mediumship part is really just to give most people come through wanting closure for something or guidance. It's like I said, mostly from family members. But once I get that family, then it moves on to more expanded version of who they are. So I can kind of tap into their Akashic records to kind of see, say if somebody comes in with something they're struggling with or whatever, it might be connected to some trauma that was hundreds of lifetimes ago. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That they've carried forward with them. So I've gotten to where I could kind of go there in the last year or so, and I really enjoy that. That's a lot of fun.
And you're referring to like an ancestral, what is that called? Projection, or I'm not sure if that's the right word.
Well, the way I understand it is tapping into their soul's history.
Yes. Okay.
So it's the Akashic records is the library of where all the records are kept for each and everybody. And you can kind of go back to some people I can go back to where they originated, but now they find themselves here on Earth. And why? Some people are a little bit harder to tap into than others, as I'm sure you know. But yeah, it's kind of that has kind of been added in the last year or so, going beyond, family. We're just going to wander out into the cosmos and figure out all of your lifetimes and where you had them. And some of them may not be Earth, so that's always fun.
Now, do people come to you for like intuitive development, things like that?
They do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like vibration frequencies, ancestral healing, meditation.
Yes, and I enjoy that as well. And because I'm still learning, we keep learning as long as we're here. We're going to keep learning.
Sure.
And so I love to help people on that journey too. That the ones that are kind of figuring out that there's more, and just helping them on that spiritual journey and giving them advice. And a lot of this advice does come from their higher self or their family or the cosmic beings they're connected to at the time, some guides or whatever, to say, hey, tell them do this. This will really help them right now. Whether it be meditation or even something more earthly like exercise. You need to exercise more, or
sure,
your diet, or organizing your house. Things like that. It could be something like that, or it could be more in the spiritual world of it.
So they could come to you, for example, like mind, body, spirit connection.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
What about like, how about like universal architecture?
I don't know if I know to explain.
Well, I'm just curious because I know like a lot of people are looking for uh, the, the very beginnings.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I was saying before. Like I can tap into that Akash all the way back to where they actually originated, or as far back as I can go. Um, and I feel like I can go back where I need to bring that information forward. Um, like I said before, you may be carrying trauma from millennia ago in the Lyran star system and brought it here. That's something you're still healing, you know, some trauma that happened there, for example.
And
So
now
yeah.
let me ask this question because I don't want people to get confused. Because you say about you could have trauma from a millennia ago from this specific place. Now, just so people don't get confused, because I might be confused.
Okay.
we're all energy, and we don't dissipate. We don't.
No.
Our energy
Mm-hmm.
doesn't end. So
No, it doesn't.
in a scenario that I'm explaining is because your energy doesn't end, it could have
Mm-hmm.
been from a millennia ago,
Right.
as a different form,
Right.
and
In a totally different place, in a different frequency, in a different star system.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's good. I just wanted people to understand that it's
Yeah.
not like when you're dead, your energy depletes and that's it.
Right. No, it doesn't. You never die. And that's the fun part. Because where are we going to go next?
Right.
What are we going to do?
You just transform.
Right.
And a
Exactly.
lot of people they look at the Bible and they say, well, yeah, but in the Bible it says when you're dead, you're dead. And until they bring you back for the good fight or whatever. But
Right.
so people kind of get confused on that.
Yeah, there is a lot of confusion with that. And like I said, I grew up in church, so I've heard all of these things. I grew up that way. And I can meet people in that place of where they are, because I get a lot of people that are coming out of those indoctrinations and they're asking questions, and they feel comfortable coming to me because they may know me or they may have read something that I have this background. And so I can meet them where they are, basically in that place of the question asking, of what something isn't right here, and kind of take it from there. I just meet them where they are in that and take them forward,
Yeah,
because at that point they're ready to know more. If they're asking, they're ready to know.
exactly. And see,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like deja vu. People get this confused as well. But I believe thoroughly that deja vu, when you experience it, it's because it's happened to either you or an ancestor from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's that hiccup, they experienced it. And then because your energy keeps going,
Mm-hmm.
you experience it almost like the same.
Yeah,
it's
you do.
kind of confusing.
You do. Yes, it can be. It can be. And and since you mentioned ancestors, you carry that ancestral line. So you carry some of the things, some of the fractals from your ancestors into this lifetime to heal their trauma. Not to put any pressure, yeah,
Sure.
but you're carrying all that with you also. So I may be carrying something from my great grandmother, and she's here rooting me on to heal that. Because as you heal your ancestral line. Um, and I just have an understanding of that. I'm not really sure how to explain it.
No, that's okay. And I don't
Yeah.
think that, for a lot of different mediums and psychics, these kind of things, they happen to them. They're not sure how exactly, or why, but they
Right.
know that it works and it's verified through the client that, hey, this this is what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Or you could, if you want to add maybe more clarity or confusion, I don't know. the parallel timelines. There's
Yes.
parallel realities.
Yes.
So yeah, so you've got that component also, you know, of the different timelines. And I think what we experience in our physical reality, we're grabbing little pieces at every millisecond from all these different parallel realities of us or different timelines and bringing it here and working through a lot of that. And that could be considered ancestral.
Yes.
Uh, so it's just way big, Todd. It's just big.
It is.
And I've learned all of that. I mean, I've in just a short amount of time, if you want to look at it that way. Growing up the way that I did, and a lot of people do, and so I had to kind of work through that whole thing. But I'm happy where I am because I have this, like I said, expanded version of what I knew as a kid in Sunday school every morning. So it's just bigger.
Yes.
It's way bigger. And I feel like, as far as like the other end of it, the more, well, all of it's paranormal, but the more the human consciousness, the spirits, the ghosts, or whatever, I think that they're right here with us. They're not out there somewhere. They're right here. They're just in a different frequency.
Yes.
So if you just raise your vibration, you could be more in touch with your ancestors that are just right there next to you,
Yes. But that's the thing that, that's something that's a gift. I wish that I could, resonate like that and speak to other.
I think we all can. I mean, I think we all have that ability. We just have to find what it is, because I think it's different, for everyone.
And it's going to come out different in everybody.
Right.
So yes, you have this gift where you can help people discover who they were, and if they have questions about what happened, you have these you have the knowledge to be able to tell them.
Yes.
And like if someone would ask me, I'd be like, man, I have no idea. So I don't even know what I did last night.
Yeah, I know. And I still have those moments. I mean, it's very human. But for whatever reason, I have this gift and I'm embracing it, and growing with it. And little pieces and parts of my gifts are added all the time. And so that's why I need to update my website. So, but yeah, it's fascinating for sure. It really is.
What is like your ideal end game for using your gifts? What is your main purpose? Is it to help people?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. That's where I thrive, is helping. And not only do I help in this area, but I help in my community. And that's one big message from my guides, from the guides, that we are to be doing right now. What are you doing, in your earthly life right now that will be beneficial for those around you, in a helpful, loving way? So that's one of the main messages, just a blanket message, that we should be doing. So I have a lot of projects in my community. I am hoping soon to start a wellness center in my little town here.
Awesome.
That will have, the energy healing, the sound healing. We also have yoga, trying to get some massage people in. We'll do readings. It would just be like a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also make like healing jewelry with the different stones.
Yes.
They carry different frequencies for different things.
Yeah. Cause I think you make, last thing I think I seen you had like some kind of a pyramid or something.
Yeah, the pyramids. Yes.
Yes.
I love the pyramids.
And you make all that stuff.
I make it, yeah.
So you do pyramids and jewelries and man, you do a lot.
That is for a very specific purpose and healing. And put the different stones in there that have different healing properties and all this stuff. And I get special requests from people too, to make one specifically for them. And usually people will say, well, just choose something for me. And I will kind of tap into their energy and into their stuff, and
nice.
see what would be good for them in that pyramid.
So if someone wants to check out like things that you create, because now you're taking your intentions and you're taking everything that you have and you're making these products to help people. So if I wanted to buy something from you, where would I go?
Well, I need to put more. There's some on my website, but I need to put some more on there. But they can always just contact me and tell me, hey, this is what's going on with me. What do I need? Say if somebody's experiencing anxiety, I can make them an amethyst necklace or bracelet or something like that, or amethyst pyramid, because amethyst is really good for kind of calming you down and, calms your energy. And so, that, for example, usually it's kind of personal requests. People will contact me for certain things. And then I do I do some shows, like a vend at certain shows, and I'll have, various items there. So people can find me there too. Yeah. I mean, it's more of a personal contact kind of situation.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
then I may do a little reading for them or something, or kind of see what they need and then take it from there.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get back to this part right here, because I don't want to forget what I'm doing here. So you offer private phone consultants, right? Or consults, direct communication, answers, and guidance regarding any personal growth, spiritual growth, and healing for the soul. Your true self.
Mm-hmm. Which is our goal, our consciousness. That's our true self. And we carry a lot in that.
And you can be found at theangelbridge.com.
Mm-hmm.
And social, do you have any other social sites?
I have just my personal pages, Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
I'm not very fancy. I'm very personal. So, what you see is kind of what you get. So you can look me up on Facebook, Susan Hill. And I think it's Susan _ I can't remember on Instagram. I think it's Susan _ or Susan C _ Hill on Instagram.
So what about Indigo Soul?
Indigo Soul is a shop that I opened in town a couple of years ago, and it's still there. A friend of mine is there in person at the shop 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 3.5 days, I think. I'm not there as much anymore because I still work. I still, I'm a realtor.
Sure.
And so I still work. But the shop is there in town in Livonia. And that's where a lot of the jewelry and, various pieces of art is there. And my friend Karen has a lot of her stuff in there too. So we kind of do that together. And so hopefully we'll have an extension kind of that with the wellness center.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So a lot of things coming up then, correct?
Yeah, a lot of things coming up, hopefully.
Good.
It's in the works. Yeah, it's in the works.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, it was so great talking with you. I love learning about how people get their gifts or how they use them and utilize them. I find yours very I find it very interesting because you're not just dealing with the archangels, you're dealing with other beings.
Other beings, yeah.
So that to me is very fascinating.
It is fascinating. I'm still fascinated by it,
And how you perceive it too, because these aren't just, like you and I talking. This comes from a vibration.
It does.
A melody.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of musical note, which is so weird.
Yeah.
But
it is.
That's they have these different things that they're finding, these different signals that's been going for 8 billion years, and it's just now being discovered. Yeah. So
right,
it's very fascinating.
It is very fascinating, and I love talking about it too. I love sharing it with people. and letting them know, kind of what I do. And because I feel like I said, everybody's gifted, but it might be different. There's
Absolutely.
different gifts. So yeah, I'm happy to talk with whoever, and they can contact me from my website. All my information's there, or find me on Facebook.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Susan. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed talking with you. I learned so much.
Yeah,
And
me too. Thank you for having me.
Yes, that's one of the biggest reasons why I like to have people like you that are mediums, intuitives, things like that, because I don't know a lot of this stuff. This is one area that I am learning. Now, I don't want to learn to do it, but I want to learn, the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
it's got to
Mm-hmm.
come from something. It comes from some divine thing. So,
It does.
and that's
Yeah.
that's what I find interesting, and our listeners find that interesting too. That's why I kind of go between the paranormal and, well, kind of the paranormal of what you do.
Right, right. Yeah, it's all paranormal, but it's there's two different ends of it, and I've kind of scaled over all of it. I'm still growing, so we're still moving forward.
Yes, and you're
Yeah,
going to do that until you transition from this life to the
I
next.
will. Yeah, I
And
really stepped into who I am. So
uh,
finally,
do you think that? Let me ask this. This might be super tough, but do you think we take any knowledge of say this life with us to the
yeah, yeah,
next?
I do. I do. Yeah, I do absolutely, because we're ascending, as from each lifetime we ascend to, hopefully we ascend to another, a higher vibratory state. So you have to carry the knowledge that you had, from your previous life to the next. And you do remember, I think you remember certain things, um, from your previous lifetimes. And I say that because I have memories of mine. And I came in with two lifetimes. When I was little, I could remember two specific lifetimes, and very detailed. And I think a lot of kids are more, open to that now. People are more open to that, like you said. And so, absolutely, I think we do carry certain things. Maybe not everything, but what we need. You know,
Yeah, and that could be
in the
like
current.
where the deja vu hiccups come from, things like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, because it would be like, okay, if we take knowledge with us, which we absolutely could, we could take every little bit of knowledge that we did in this life to the next life, but
right.
it's just trying to access it.
It's accessing it. Yes.
Because, like you said before at the very beginning, uh, you'd have to you'd have to decompile yourself. You wouldn't be able to be influenced by anything. Like, you couldn't be conditioned.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And that, I think, is part of the game. That's part of the plan here. That's part of the game of Earth, or the school of Earth, is to come in without any knowledge, or very little. You
And
know.
could that be because of, and I hate to bring in religion, but could it be because of one book? I mean, a book that tells us what we shouldn't and should do,
I
and
think that has a lot to do with it.
and
Yeah.
people are like, "Hey, you can't think like that because it's not in this book."
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
It does. It does. But even before that was here, because the book itself, compared to how long we've been here, is very short,
Yes.
timeline. So I think that we came here, we agreed as a soul, as a consciousness, we agreed to come here to and forget, and find our way back. I think that's part of, our healing, our growth, our expansion, everything. And a lot of us now, and this was the information I got from out there, from the guides out there. They said in the last 100 years, we've had a lot of people born, a lot of consciousness come in, from other planetary star systems. to help raise the vibration of Earth, and to bring whatever knowledge we had, with us. Of course, they had to go through the forgetful stage too of forgetting everything or almost everything, but they had enough to help, bring us forward, as a human collective and with Earth, you know,
Yes.
to go higher.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could just go on and on with that because I'm always curious about everything. I could just
Yeah,
keep
we'll
asking
have
questions.
to jump on a phone call together one time. Sometime seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Susan. I thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
on.
Todd.
I've learned so much. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and I hope we could do it again sometime.
Yeah, let's do.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. You have a wonderful evening, and thank you again so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning in with us tonight, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranomaly Podcast is made available. If you believe you have something paranormal happening in your home or business, or you believe you may have witnessed a UFO or UAP, please send us your story, your photos, videos, questions, suggestions, and your comments to paranormallypodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us at www.paranormallypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Hey, thanks again for watching and listening, and I hope that you tune in for next week's episode of Paranomaly. Hey, a word of caution. Paranormally Podcast and its affiliates or hosts do not verify or check the validity of any person, team, or its members. Paranormally Podcast highly advises that you proceed with caution when contacting any person or team before allowing them and having them into your home or business. A legit paranormal research and investigation team will never charge you a fee to investigate your home or business. They do, however, accept donations to help further the research and investigations if you so choose to do so. All right, thanks everybody.